Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm Laura Blackwell. My co-host, Daniel Marcus, started Story Hour to help people remain connected in one of the oldest ways known to our species, just telling each other stories around the fire. So here we are over a year later, still gathered around the same fire. Welcome back to those of you returning, and welcome to those of you joining us for the first time. As always, we have two writers reading for their favorite nonprofits. Tonight's readers are April Gray and KG Anderson. If you are fortunate enough to help others during this time, please consider a donation to one or both of tonight's featured nonprofits, Animal Haven or the SFWA Emergency Medical Fund. I almost reversed those originally to say SFWA Emergency Medical Fund and Animal Haven, but it didn't sound quite right. I don't know what the SFWA Animal Haven would be, but we should talk about that in the chat. So April Gray is reading for Animal Haven. Animal Haven finds homes for abandoned cats and dogs in New York City and throughout the tri-state area, and provides behavioral intervention when needed to improve chances of adoption. You can learn more at animalhaven.org. KG Anderson is reading for the SFWA Emergency Medical Fund. The Emergency Medical Fund, EMF, was established to help genre writers pay medical expenses not otherwise covered by insurance. The fund is meant to cover short-term emergency situations that interfere with the ability to write. You can learn more at sfwa.org. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to leave your camera on. It can be really nice for the writers who are our readers to see the people they're talking to. And if you're on Zoom, feel free to chime in on the text chat. If you're joining us on Facebook, thank you, but please understand that we may not see your messages right away. Our first reader tonight is April Gray. April's short stories are collected in The Fairy Cake Bake Shop and in I'll Love You Forever. The author of 3 urban fantasy novels, Finding Perdita, Chasing the Trickster, and its sequel, St. Nick's Favor, she's also the editor of the Hells anthologies. She was a co-editor on the Stoker Award-nominated New York State of Fright. She and her family live in Hell's Kitchen, New York, in a building next to a bedeviled garden. Gremlins, sprites, or pixies, something mischievous lurks therein. Someday she'll find out. Please visit aprilgray.blogspot for her latest news. April, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We're delighted to have you.
Okay, so I'm going to read from the latest Hell's Mall. That's my latest anthology in the Hell's series. And reprinting a short story of mine. Objects of Desire. The Lexi Marie 10 is the ultimate in human comfort and pleasure. Satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. Len read the placard. He then eyed the mechanical doll. When he was a kid, you blew them up, and you could buy them only in shops in the bad section of town. But here she was, a perfect replica of a woman, skin pearly and warm to the touch, just standing there in Central Mall, where anyone, even children, could see her. For shame. He tried to look away, but his curiosity drew him back. The sheer black negligee didn't hide a thing. Real hair, everywhere, and accurate to the smallest detail. According to popular mechanics, she couldn't walk too well, but lying down, you couldn't tell the difference. And she had 2 vacuum pumps as well as. He shifted uneasily, his temperature, among other things, rising. He took a deep breath and exhaled. What if Laura should spot him ogling it like some teenage Lothario? He blushed and then turned around, just in case she should magically appear from thin air. And there she was, salt and pepper hair, already deflated by the summer humidity outside, splotchy skin, no matter what allergy-free makeup she tried, and a shape now closer to a beach ball than the glorious hourglass of their courtship days. And what was that she was looking at? Not the Lexi Mark 11. His hand brushed over his balding pate, acutely aware of his burgeoning gut. He stepped in double time over to his wife of the past 28 years. Laura, come away from that thing. Oh, Glenn, can you imagine? He looked around, hoping no one they knew was nearby. You couldn't be interested in that, he whispered in her ear. She put her hand on his arm. I need to get the company address and write to them. Laura? He felt sucker punched as she began to root about in her bag. I really must let them know. She handed him the bag to hold for her as she dove deeper into its murky depths. Know what? His face turned red as his voice slid up an unmanly octave. She got out a pen and pad of paper from her purse and scribbled the address. He's not at all attractive. I'll send him that picture I took last week of you at the beach. She nodded with a smile. Then they'll have it right. Glenn felt 30 years melt from him. His shoulders straightened and his gut tightened. Blinking back tears, he linked his arm through hers. Come on, honey. Let me buy you a hot fudge sundae. Whipped cream, sprinkles, a cherry, the works. And that was the first one. The next two stories are for my collection, I'll Love You Forever, Weird Love Tales. I don't know how well you can see that, but let me find it now. First one is called Doing Time. Waiting for things to go your way always seems to take longer than you would expect. And that's why I made it my policy never to wait. I'd go out and make things happen. Sure, it backfires sometimes, but it's better than sitting around twiddling your thumbs. Be the change, like they say in that TV commercial. Of course, there are people too afraid to do anything but sit on it. And they always resent those of us who have the guts to grab fate by the hair and French kiss her. But that's how I wound up in jail. My pal Vinny was one of those people with the patience of a saint, and that's why he was chosen to take the rap for Kenny the Beak. And so to Sing Sing, Vinny meekly went. Connected guys like Vinny usually got left alone. It was an easy job. Just do your time and come out to life on Easy Street. But there was Vinny's lovely Adelaide, left all alone and expected to be a good little wife while Vinny was gone. Now, she's a lady, so beautiful and refined, you'd expect to see her in a Soho gallery or walking a fancy dog on Park Avenue. Eyes so dark a blue, they look purple, and raven hair that smells like a spring day. I was supposed to be Vinny's pal and keep an eye on her while she waited for him to be sprung. But it happened, unplanned and unasked for, that for the first time in my life, I fell for a woman and fell hard. She said it was too dangerous, that if we at least waited until he'd finished his time, she'd be able to convince him to give her a divorce. If it got back to him that we were doing him dirt while he was in prison, he'd make sure that some of his friends on the outside would come after me. As I said before, waiting isn't my game. We left New York and shacked up in a little house just outside of Vegas. Instead of roses in the front yard, there were palms and cacti. But we were happy there, pretending to be husband and wife. With our fake names and IDs, nobody should have been able to find us. Still, one day, the police showed up at our door. Ketzarelli, a small-time loan shark, was dead, and I'd been fingered for the murder. There wasn't a thing I could do about it. I'd been set up by pros. At least Adelaide got away before she could be dragged into it. Normally I'm as cool as they come, but when I think of Adelaide behind bars, I break into a sweat. The idea that she was safe and far away kept me from losing my nerve through it all. I was asleep and dreaming of a surf and turf with a big baked potato and Junior's cheesecake. Yeah, from Brooklyn. When the warden came in, he told me to get my stuff together because I was free to go. Someone sent evidence showing that the real murderer was another loan shark, a competitor by the name of Louis Gottsman. When I picked up my stuff from prison storage, I found a note with "Have a good life" scrawled on it. No signature. I thought I smelled a whiff of her perfume on the paper. I tried to find her, but she was gone like our dreams. By chance, I saw her a few months later, covered in diamonds and melting in the Vegas heat from the mink coat she was wearing. Adelaide draped on the arm of Chico Ramos, the retired boss of the San Carlos gang. I didn't make eye contact. Even something as small as that could get a throat cut by those scumbags. Had she sprung me by going to a bigger fish in a bigger pond than what her jailbird husband's gang swam in? Chico could have pulled a few strings and zap, I was a free man. I keep thinking that must be it. She's guarded too closely for me to find out exactly what happened. But I checked around and found out Vinny gave her a divorce, just like she wanted. I want to believe Adelaide only hooked up with Chico to save me. God knows it wasn't his personal hygiene or his looks. She never was a gold digger. Then again, sometimes people change. He's got to get tired of her eventually. And even if her hair isn't as black as it used to be, or her figure not so great, I'll be waiting for her. If she still loves me, there's a diamond ring I keep in my pocket. Yeah, I know it's against my policy, but some things, some people are worth the wait. Okay, and the last one. I'll love you forever, but, you know, it was a marriage they said would never last. Even I had my doubts. After all, I was a dancer. Dancer, mind you, not a stripper, at the Pussycat Go-Go Club. And he was this geeky postdoc at his friend's bachelor party. So I became a good professor's wife. I hosted faculty teas and luncheons, kept the house spotless, made healthy meals, kept myself in shape, and raised 2 beautiful boys, one now at MIT and the other at Caltech. Still, it's supposed to be until death do you part. Death, the parting of the ways. This whole eternity thing, I never agreed to it. Faithful to a fault, that's my Fred. And he wasn't buried 3 days when he showed up at the back door covered in dirt, and his feet, well, he had no shoes on, just socks. Wet, muddy, slimy socks. He should have told me, put in his will or something. Bury him in shoes. I would have done it. I can be unconventional. He should have warned me. But he was always the typical absent-minded professor. I was in such shock that I had the presence of mind to shut the door on him. So now he was on my freshly washed kitchen floor with moldering leaves and what have you, and he grunts at me. Huh? I say, equally speechless. I kept that floor clean enough to eat off of, and now look what he'd done. He grunted again. Prior to his demise, my Fred was a well-spoken man, and he had this amazingly plummy voice for his lectures. Fred, honey, I don't know what you're saying. He opened his mouth a bit wider, and a few white, crawly things, slugs, maggots, I don't know, fell out onto the floor. I shrieked and ran for the disinfectant in my cleaning gloves. While I was under the sink, trying to decide on straight ammonia or pine fresh, he shambled over. He was right there and tried to embrace me as I stood up with my supplies. Well, no way, I thought, though I was pinned to the sink. He smelled of soil and decaying things. Still, I tried to stifle my revulsion. This was, after all, the father of my boys, so I didn't want to hurt his feelings. Neither could I accept letting him get 1 inch closer. I put out both my hands, filled as they were with cleaning products. He grunted plaintively, perhaps at the expression on my face, and turned around, moving towards the living room. Oh, my white shag rug! The one that I waited years for the boys to get old enough to head off to college before getting. The one that I made everyone take off their shoes before walking on. That one. Well, yes, Fred wasn't wearing any shoes, but that only made things worse. There was already a trail of grime across my kitchen floor. I know that Martha Stewart claims she can get dirt from shag, but can you take the word of a jailbird? It was time to lay down some guidelines. Fred, lovey, I said as I got out some chilled wine from the fridge. I froze. I had had that wine in the fridge chilling since before his accident at the lab. The dinner I'd planned that tragic night was trout almondine with green beans and rice. Healthy meals. That's what I strived for. Pulling myself together, I found the corkscrew and opened the wine. Please sit down and have a little. I know this has been a stressful time for us both. Why, the boys lost a week from their classes and only flew back last night. I'm sorry you missed them. I must have been getting through to him because he turned away from my shag and came back towards the kitchen nook where I'd poured us 2 glasses of wine. I patted the wrought iron cafe chair, hoping he'd take a seat. I only meant to sip my glass of wine, but the sight of him, his yellowing, hard-boiled eyes, upset me. I downed it and poured another glass. Sweetiekins, I began, using the back of my hand to wipe away a dribble of wine from my chin. This isn't going to work out. You know I adore you, and I'll love you always. He moaned, and the sound of it drove a cold chill down my spine. I forgot what I was going to say for a moment, while I wondered what that green and fuzzy thing on the side of his nose, was it growing there? He was trying to say something, maybe that he loved me too. But did he love me enough to stop this insanity and head back to his grave? You know you can't stay here. You're dead, and your new home is in the cemetery. Remember, we picked out the grave site together? You really loved those cypress trees. I tried to be as gentle as possible. And the funeral, I guess you don't remember that, but the boys were there and all your colleagues from the university. And what would they say after such a beautiful ceremony? It would be downright rude not to stay dead. I gulped down another glass of wine and felt the room whirl. And I promised to visit you every week. Won't that be grand? He didn't touch the wine, but grunting even louder, returned to the entrance of the living room and my shag rug. I hadn't gone through to him at all, and now my rug was about to pay the price. Where was that reasonable man I'd married? Gone forever, I feared. I didn't know how I would stop him, but I ran past him into the living room and stood in front of him, wordlessly begging him to stop. But stop he didn't. Instead, he pushed past me and crossed my rug, leaving a dank, black, oozing trail across it. But the rug was not his final destination, and he entered his study. I was tempted to shut the door behind him and lock it, but then what would I do? I had to somehow get him to understand his place in the world was the graveyard, now that he was dearly departed. Inside the study, I found him tearing through his desk. He slipped a vial of some gray-green concoction into his coat pocket and then continued to throw papers on the floor. His study was the one place in the house where I wasn't allowed to go while he was alive. After his demise, it had taken me hours to collect and sort his papers. I didn't complain about this new mess. I can be noble. With a happy grunt, he found his research journal. It was his habit to have 2 sets of notes, one in his study for him to pore over at night and the second one at his lab. I smiled and nodded. Maybe he just wanted some reading to take with him. He brandished it at me. I read the cover. Immortality Project? I sighed. Poor Fred. I usually spent the time when he was talking about his work, figuring out the dinner rotation or the week's grocery shopping in my head. Had I known, I would have told him what a dumb idea it was. Immortality? Who would fund something like that? Is that it, Fred? You wanted to tell me what you'd been working on. Well, I understand. It all went wrong, horribly wrong. You're dead now, and it's time to head back to Shady Elms. I'll miss you, but I'll come by every week with fresh flowers. You'll see that being dead isn't too bad. With a howl, he rushed forward and lifted me up in his arms. I shrieked, and then I kicked and pushed against him, but to no avail. He was walking on my beautiful shag again, this time headed for our bedroom. Now, I didn't have just one filthy path to clean, but 2. I had to admire his strength, though. Lugging me around like that should have thrown out his back. But here he was, carrying me without a moan or even a grunt. I've always been careful with my husband's feelings. Scientists are like artists, sensitive, but he just wasn't getting the message. Something dropped off of him and wriggled itself down into the shag. I screamed and pounded my fists on his all too solid back and raged that not only will I have to get it cleaned, but fumigated as well. But just when you think it can't get worse, it did. He crossed the threshold of our bedroom, and I realized that he was about to violate the pristine ambience of our bedroom. Put me down, Fred. I'm not going to make love to you. No means no. He ignored me. Crossing the pale pink and beige carpet of our bedroom, he tossed me on the bed like a sack of turnips. Please, in the name of all that's holy, there are 400 thread count Egyptian cotton sheets on this bed. Sex, great sex, had been the mortar of our marriage. In the bedroom together, we were frenzied, exotic animals, pounding out our differences. I draw the line at necrophilia. I opened my mouth to tell him no one last time, but he grabbed my jaw. With surprising deftness, he unstopped the vial I had seen him put into his pocket and poured the stuff down my throat. It was as if liquid nitrogen had been poured into me, instantly freezing my mouth, jaw, and neck. I felt it slide down my throat into my stomach, and an intense iciness enveloped my torso and spread through my limbs. The only heat remaining to me were my tears pouring down the sides of my face. As my vision faded, Fred leaned over and mouthed some words. I can't be sure. I can only hope. I think he said, trust me. Well, maybe Martha was right about getting dirt out of shag. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Those were disturbing and romantic and funny and sometimes all in the same story.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really fun. Whew.
And here's the little girl.
Well, we always like to take a breath in between. Well, hello. Hello, little. Say something so the camera will be back on you.
She's a Chihuahua. We got her from Animal Haven 10 years ago. She'd had mange as a puppy and her owner couldn't take her to the vet. So she basically has no hair, a couple of little patches, but we've been able to take good care of her. She has a little bit of hair growing back, but Animal Haven, they're a wonderful place. And so I'm doing the pitch, send money to them.
Well, thank you for showing us evidence of their good work. Animal Haven is linked in the Zoom chat and also in the Facebook comments. And you can help critters like that adorable little, mostly bald puppy.
Yes.
She's lovely. So in between, we always just sort of take a breath in between the stories, prepare for the next one. And this is no exception. Our next reader is April Gray, we just had April Gray. KG Anderson. KG Anderson lives in a fishing community on the edge of Seattle with bookseller Tom Whitmore, his vast collection of books and ephemera, and their clouder of complicated cats. She writes web content by day and fiction by night, and she gardens whenever it stops raining. Her speculative fiction appears in magazines, anthologies, and podcasts, including Galaxy's Edge, Starship Sofa, Far-Fetched Fables, and The Overcast. For links to more of her stories, visit writerway.com/fiction. KG, welcome. Oh, you're on mute. KG, could you please unmute?
Yep, there we go. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, Lara and Daniel, for inviting me to read. We're going to really change direction. I love what April did. I'm definitely going to start things down a few notches with a story that appeared in Galaxy's Edge. We're going to start midway into the story. It's about a young boy growing up in a dying town in a war-torn country. Jamie hears a train in the night, but it's a train that no one else believes exists. An eccentric teacher at his high school tells him how to find the train, but he has a warning. So we're going to jump in right here. Junior year of high school, they gave us beat up state history books. The first thing I notice is all the pictures of trains. That's the way it used to be back before the wars. Mr. Vero, our social studies teacher, goes on and on about the trains that ran through Sinclair up to Athens and beyond that to Great Plains. While he talks, I turn over the handout he gave us and sketch a black streamlined locomotive. My train has tracks and a backdrop of cities and mountains. I'm adding a bridge that spans an ink black sea when the bell rings and class is over. As I pass Mr. Vero's desk, the sheet with the drawing slips from my notebook and goes skimming across the floor. I bend down to grab it. When I straighten up, Mr. Vero's staring at me. We're alone in the room. Let me see that, he says. I hand it to him. Nice train, Jamie. Good imagination. You like trains? Yeah. I shrug, wondering where this is going. Maybe I can distract him. So I ask, are the trains really gone from Sinclair? Mr. Vero taps his pen on his gradebook. You tell me, Jamie. I take a deep breath. I think maybe sometimes one of the trains comes down here. Close the door. Mr. Vero flexes his good leg and uses it to push his chair back from the desk. He lost the other leg in one of the wars. Mr. Vero looks out the window at the empty fields beside the school. The windows are open and a distant tractor drones. I'll bet you've heard a train around here, Jamie. Maybe. Mr. Vero keeps talking like I hadn't answered. Right outside your house, I'd guess, shaking the walls. Your parents don't believe you. My mother, I correct him. She can't hear it. Oh, they never can. Mr. Vero pushes his oily black hair back off his forehead. And I wonder what he looked like before the war, before the twisted body, the cane, the rumpled clothes that we make fun of, what he looked like when he was my age. He leans close. His face is kind of wolfish. Have you seen the train? I shake my head. No, what does it? There's a burst of laughter from the hallway. Locker doors slam. We sit silent until the footsteps die away. What does it look like? Mr. Vero laughs. The first time I saw the train, it was black and shiny and modern, like the streamliner in your picture. But there were other times when it was old and slow and had that gears and wheels and bare bones look like movies in the Old West. Mr. Vero scrubs his knuckles over the stubble on his jaw. You want to see it, Jamie? I nod. To my surprise, Mr. Vero tells me where to go look. You mean, go down there some night, Jamie. I promise you'll see the train. I'm already planning how I'll get out to see it one of the nights when Mom doesn't come home. Jamie, Mr. Vero worries his bottom lip with a coffee-stained tooth. Be ready. Sometimes the train stops, and I've heard that sometimes people can get on it. Get on the train? That hadn't crossed my mind. I look at Mr. Vero, his twisted body, his damp-looking hair. Had the train stopped for him? Had he gotten on? Or had he taken the work bus east like everyone else does? Before I can ask him, the late bell rings and I have to run. While Miss Kelleher lectures about Wordsworth, I imagine myself finding the train. But then I remember what Mr. Vero said about it stopping. I've never been further than Athens for my grandmother's funeral. I'm not going to get on some train to nowhere, but I sure want to see it. Thinking about how I'll get out at night to look for the train, I miss all the signals about Mom until the night she leaves. Jamie, Jamie! Mom opens my bedroom door and leans in, silhouetted by the dim light from the hallway. Another late night, I figure. But then I spot the big bag at her feet. I'm going east, honey. Gonna catch up with your daddy. Come say goodbye. But what about, I want to ask, what about me? But Mom's already headed downstairs. I slide out of bed, scrubbing sleep from my eyes. Ever since Dad left, I've been imagining Mom going too. But I must have misheard her. She can't be leaving town. She hardly talks about Dad anymore. Men come by to visit her, and I know what that means. Thump, thump, thump. She's dragging her canvas duffel down the stairs. I follow her into the kitchen in my pajamas. Mom's wearing her green work pants and a corduroy barn jacket, but her round face is made up like it's Saturday night. Left some money for you on account at the store, she says, looking around the kitchen, but not at me. Aunt Helen will take care of you. You're coming back. Before she can answer, a car horn honks. There's my ride, hon. All right, don't you worry. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. You'll be okay. She pulls me in for a fierce short hug, and then she's got her bags and is hurrying down the walkway to her friend's truck. Mom! Too late. The truck door slams, tires crunch gravel, and she's gone. Mom! I yell it again and again, knowing she can't hear me. Mom! I run upstairs and put on the jeans and t-shirt I left on my chair. My bike's by the back door, and it's only a mile to the town square where they load the work bus. If there's room, I'll go with her. I pedal like mad, breath rasping, and slew around the corner into the square just as the big silver work bus lurches away from the curb. I open my mouth to shout after it, but catch sight of the Jackson brothers from school on the sidewalk across the square under a dim streetlight. So the three of us stand in silence and watch as the bus rumbles off. When it's gone, Luke Jackson raises an arm and waves slowly to me. I lift my hand from the handlebars and wave back. Then the Jacksons turn and move into the shadows, and I'm alone in the square. I jerk the bike around and pedal slowly home. The night's still and silent, and the empty road seems so unfamiliar that I have to check the street signs to make sure I'm riding the right way. Willow, Grove, Seneca. I turn onto our street, but then I keep riding past our house where the lights are still on in the deserted kitchen. Maybe the work bus isn't the only way to leave town. I ride out beyond where the streetlights end and then out past the Stockmeyer farm and down toward the creek bed, because that's where Mr. Vero said I'd find the train. When I reach the creek, I vault down into the broad, shallow gully. I've been here during the day, so I have a sense of the place. Tonight, there's a thin trickle of creek water carrying a broken reflection of the half moon. I sit down on a rock, elbows on knees, and wait. The first sign comes from the stream, where the reflection of the moonlight starts to tremble. Willows and shrubs on the creek bank rustle as if a dust devil were coming through, and then I hear it, the low moan of the train. The locomotive comes on fast, pounding toward me in a blur of black steel and white steam and churning wheels. The creek beds may be 15 feet across, and the train, it seems nearly as broad. I flatten myself against the rocky bank and close my eyes. When I open them, the train shrunk to a pinpoint of red light in the distance. Then it's gone, and I'm alone in the dark. I scramble out of the creek bed, stumbling, falling on one knee, but finally getting to where I've left the bike against an oak. I'm shaking too hard to ride, so I walk the bike back to town. The lights are still on in our kitchen. I tell myself Mom's changed her mind and come back, and she's sitting at the kitchen table listening to her radio. But her cold coffee sits on the counter right where she left it. I stumble upstairs and fall into bed. My mother's gone. My train is real. I have no idea what any of it means. When I wake up the next morning, I know right away that something's missing. There's no smell of frying eggs, no toasting bread, no radio. And then I remember Mom's gone. I'm putting one foot into my jeans when I think of the train. Did I really see it? I skip breakfast, bike to school early, and head right for Mr. Vero's room. There's the substitute teacher there. She frowns at me and mutters something about it being another one of his sick days. Mr. Vero is back at school later in the week, but I don't say anything about the train, and then somehow it's too late, and mostly I'm trying to get used to life without Mom. There's football and track after school, although the teacher who coaches us leaves on the work bus midway through the season. There's Sunday dinners at Aunt Helen's house. She shows me how to keep the house in a kind of order. On those nights when I can't sleep, I bike down to the creek and I wait for the train. Sometimes it's a behemoth of black steel that glides through on a cloud of steam. Other times it's an old iron horse that rocks and chugs, wood and glass rattling. And one night a freight crawls by, its cars stenciled with company names: Miskey, Phillips, Tully. An open door reveals a car aglow with a stove fire and dark, misshapen shadows that flicker and shift against the walls. Mr. Vero's wrong, though, about the trains. They never stop. A year later, I graduate at the top of my class, what's left of it. The town has offered to pay for my college in Athens. If I take medic training, I'll work off the debt by keeping Sinclair's clinic running. "You'll make a good medic, Jamie," Mr. Vero says when I stop by to say goodbye. His dark eyes meet mine, and I know what he's waiting for. "I saw the train," I say, and once I start, the rest spills out. Lots of trains, lots of times, but they never stop. Mr. Vero frowns as if I've disappointed him. "Jamie, I'm surprised. It stopped for me twice when I was your age," I thought. "Did you get on?" "No." He shakes his head and says again more slowly, "No, I didn't," and looks away. After a moment, Mr. Vero looks back at me and slaps his desk. "Well, Jamie, that was an awfully long time ago." His voice is louder, cheerful, that awful tone grown-ups use to shut you out. "Times have changed, and like I said, it's good you're going up to Athens." Mr. Vero leans across his desk, holds out his hand. I shake it and say goodbye. The night before I leave town, I walk from room to room in our empty house. I've taken a few things left in the icebox over to Mrs. Grace and given Mom's radio to Luther's mother. The one postcard that came from Mom more than a year ago sits on my dresser. I'll lock up the place, and with luck, it'll still be here for me when I come back in 2 years, if the town is still here. My bag sits by the door, but instead of going to bed, I set out for the creek and one last look at the train. The summer air smells of damp greenery, crickets chorus, lightning bugs flash. I sit on a rock at the base of the creek bank, stretch out my legs and lean back. Had the train really stopped for Mr. Vero? Why hadn't he gotten on? Why had he taken the work bus east like everyone else? I doze off. A soft shuffling sound wakes me, and there's a silver train gliding to a halt as if pulling into a station. It's barely stopped when a man in a dark suit and a hard flat visor hat springs off. He glances to his left and then to his right, up and down some invisible platform. He consults a gold pocket watch, then looks right at me. I jump to my feet. Intent on watching him, I hadn't realized he could see me too. He raises an eyebrow and jerks his head in the direction of the train. "Are you the conductor?" I stammer. He snorts and rocks back on his heels. He fishes a hip flask from the pocket of his jacket, twists off the top and takes a pull. "I'm the conductor, I'm the brakeman, I'm the engineer. I run the damn train." He speaks clearly but fast, and he looks up and down the creek again before he looks back at me. "I decide where it goes, where it stops, and who rides." A pause. "Ready to go, young man?" I take a few steps towards the train and then freeze. My heart pounds in my ears. Not yet. Did I say that out loud? Sweat trickles down my back. What if Mom comes back and I'm gone? What about medic school in Athens? The engineer caps his flask and clears his throat. I wait to hear what he'll say next. I'm shocked when he leaps back on the train and vanishes into a dark car. "Hey," I call out to him, "wait." But the train just glides away. I'm left standing in the creek bed, my mouth open. My chest begins to ache and my mouth tastes bitter. I swallow and grimace. The train had stopped for me and I'd missed it. Was this what happened to Mr. Vero? Will I end up like him? I peer into the night down the creek bed where the train vanished. I look at the creek bed where the conductor stood. There is no sign a train has ever been here. I sit down on a rock. I sit there all night, waiting, hoping the train will come back. But the creek bed remains empty and silent. At dawn, I walk back home, haul my bags out to the porch, lock up the house, and Chief Thompson comes by to give me a ride up to Athens. 2 years later, I come home to a Sinclair grown smaller and even more desperate. Most of my high school friends have left on the work buses. The two who come back don't talk about what they saw back east. There's no word from my mom. Mrs. Grace died, and for whatever reason, she left her bungalow to me. With a mixture of guilt and relief, I choose to leave there, and our place sinks even deeper into disrepair. The clinic keeps me busy. I work with another medic and an elderly nurse. Doctors from upstate come through once a week to read x-rays, sign prescriptions, and do minor surgeries. The pharmacy in Athens supplies us. It's a gloomy October afternoon when I see the name Brent Vero on the clinic's appointment calendar. I guess he's still teaching at what's left of the high school, but we haven't been in touch. I feel bitter when I think about him, when I think about the train. Before calling Mr. Vero into the exam room, I leaf through his chart. Looks like his prosthesis needs to be sent off for repairs, but he's unwilling. Can't blame him. The Veterans Hospital system is on the verge of collapse. Meanwhile, we're treating him for an infection that started where the brace rubbed against the stump. He's asking for painkillers. Drug seeker, my colleague noted on the chart. Mr. Vero maneuvers in on his crutches. His face, pale and puffy, lights up when he sees me. "Jamie!" "Mr. Vero?" "Call me Brent." We shake hands and he sags into a chair. I smell alcohol in his breath and from his soiled canvas jacket. Drinker. No surprise, most of the adults in Sinclair are drowning their pain in alcohol. I'm authorized to dispense 8 pills containing an opium derivative. Brent accepts the envelope of pills with a sweaty hand, repeating his thanks while I make an appointment for him to see the visiting doc next week. Brent's my last patient of the day, so I walk him through the shabby waiting room to the front door, making small talk about the high school. At the doorway, he stops and turns, his grizzled face close to mine and his voice gravelly. So, Jamie, the train never stopped for you? I've tried to forget the conductor turning his back on me, tried not to think about what might have happened if I'd boarded the train that night. Brent's eyes gleam with pain and understanding. No, it did stop the night before I went up to Athens. I've been meaning to tell you. So tell me. He gestures towards the tavern across the street. I grab my coat, lock up the clinic, and we cross the road, hunched against the rain. In the tavern, we take a booth and order the musty-tasting local beer. Between bitter sips, I tell him about the night the train stopped. You should have gotten on, Jamie. Brent raises his hand to signal for another beer. Sinclair's dying. It's dead. Pretty soon there won't be any work left for you, for any of us. There's always work for a medic. The barmaid sets down his glass. When she leaves, he asks, do you still hear the train? Not really. Brent shakes his head. Ah, Jamie, whatever happened to that fine imagination of yours? The train still comes through. I know. I hear it. I know you hear it too. He leans close. Let's see if it'll stop for us tonight, Jamie. I'm ready to go. This time I'm ready to get on. Poor guy, I think. Then the tavern door creaks open. Brent turns his head and together we watch as a man and a woman in damp canvas work coats shuffle to the bar, joining a half a dozen people already hunched over their drinks. How long before I'm one of that crowd? I look back at Brent, who raises an eyebrow. He leans forward. Did I ever tell you about what I saw back east? His voice is low as he describes it. Quarantine zones, military bases, shipyards and submarines, rumors of weapons, theirs and ours, that could destroy the world. The big cities filled with foreigners, some of them allies, some of them former prisoners of war from one of the earlier conflicts. Rumors of monsters and aliens. Hard to keep track of who we're fighting, he says. So is that where the train goes, back east? No. Brent pauses and then looks straight at me. I think the train goes somewhere else entirely. I think it takes you wherever you want to go, to a place in your imagination. The waitress sets down another round. Brent raises his glass and waits. I meet it with mine. Okay, I say, I'm with you. Let's go have a look. We set out shortly before midnight, Brent swinging along on his crutches, both of us staggering a little from the beer. Fortunately, the clouds have broken it, and they show a moon that's near full. When we reach the creek bed, I take Brent's elbow and help him down the incline. He stands at the bottom, braced on his crutches, looking around like a man returning to his old stomping ground. What the hell, he says. He's grinning and somehow young again in the bright moonlight. What the hell? We're just in time. Our train is coming. A rush of hot wind sends gravel flying up from the creek bed to sting my cheeks. Above us, the dark branches of the trees whip and thrash like they're reaching for the sky. This train is a beauty. Black and sleek and panting as if it were alive. The brakes sing out, but the locomotive roars past us. When it finally bucks to a halt, the train stands, hissing, a good quarter mile down the creek bed. Brent swivels on his crutches. Let's go, he growls, and begins swinging toward the train. A dark figure comes out on the rear platform of the caboose, holding a lantern. I recognize the engineer. He lifts his light high and peers at us. You again, he shouts. Come on. I take off at a run, passing Brent, splashing through the creek bed, up onto the rocky, dry ground, back into the shallow creek again. I keep my eyes trained on the lantern and the figure holding it. I turn my head to look back for Brent. He's fallen behind, laboring across the rocky ground. Go on, he yells. I'm right behind you. I'm off and running again, splashing through the shallow water toward the bright lantern. The engineer stands in profile now, turning as if to go back inside. The train whistle shrieks. I sprint the last few yards to the platform, and to my surprise, the engineer reaches down, grabs my forearm, and hauls me aboard. His eyes gleam as black as the locomotive. How's your imagination? He asks, opening the door to the caboose. Wait, I catch his arm. I look back at Brent. Wait for him. The train shudders and begins to move. The whistle wails. Brent's waving. The engineer pulls me inside the caboose and the door slams shut behind us. That boy had his chances, he says. Come on. He drags me forward through the caboose and into a club car, his grip tight on my bicep. Two well-dressed men engrossed in a game of chess give an absent-minded wave as we hurry through. The train sways under us as it gathers steam. We cross into a sleeping car. Another door slams behind us. My heart races, fueled by guilt and fear and excitement. We pass a compartment, the door half open. A woman in an elegant green suit looks up at us and winks. In an empty passenger car, we stop to catch our breath. Braced against a seat back, I bend down to peer out a window. We're flying through moonlit fields, but this isn't the flat, barren prairie outside Sinclair. Curious buildings, half barn, half temple, dot the landscape. Tall grain ripples as we pass. In the distance, I see a gleaming city and a soaring bridge that spans an ink-black sea. Not many get to ride this train, son. Not many get a second chance. The engineer's breath is hot against my ear. Where are we going? Any place you can dream. His voice is manic, gleeful as he starts off down the aisle. Let's get the hell up front and let me show you how to drive.
Ah, that was lovely and sad.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Daniel, I feel like tonight we've had some very, very different stories and like we've just gotten but it's wonderful because I feel like we've gotten such a full view of human experience from them.
Yeah, definitely. Once again.
Yes, we talk about this every time, how well the stories always seem to end up going together, even when it's not planned at all. And it usually isn't unless someone sneaks past us and coordinates. It's happened a few times. But that was really lovely. And we're here every week, and every week it's different. Next week, we have another great lineup. We have Lewis Evans and Cassandra Kaw. And you can look up any others that you may have missed on the Story Hour page on Facebook, and you can check to see who's on the calendar upcoming at storyhour2020.com. So April, KG, thank you both so much for coming and sharing your stories with us tonight. This has really been quite an evening. I feel like I've been on a train myself through all sorts of unknown territories. And thank you to Daniel, without whom we would have no Story Hour. Thank you all of our regulars on the Zoom, those of you who are new to our Zoom, and all of you who check us out on Facebook later, you mysterious people, whoever you are. Thank you for joining us at our virtual fireside.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.